what we kind of came up with for tonight is living in the present. And I think I wrote when I sent out this this topic that most of us in the early childhood we lived in this expansive, vast present. But then, it wasn't walled in by the worries, burdens of the past and the future. Those walls just weren't there. So and time really expanded, and space, expanded. But then, and our view of the past was very light, and our view of we had practically had no concept of the future. But so that one day, I mean, I don't know if you had this experience, but one day for me when I was a little kid could last a month. It was just, time was not compressed between worries about the future or regrets about the past. And so what happened, of course, as we grew older, we were being prepared for the future, and we had to get this education, and we went from, I would say, from self-acceptance, kind of a natural self-acceptance, to this obsession with self-improvement. So, you're going through all sorts of things to get better and better and get eventually a successful career and all of that. In other words, we needed to become someone, not the self we are right now, someone better than we are. And so and then we started to accumulate a past, some of which we were not exactly happy with. And in fact, when we would look back, we'd kind of cringe sometimes at the things that we had done. And then all these dreams in the future. So we're energetically going into the future and energetically going into the past, and all the energy, and not all the energy is in the present. And I mean, that you all kind of know it. One friend of mine has this expression that describes a lot of the people in the world. This thought is looping around in their head. I mean, not so much the Bible lovers, but a lot of people. This is the thought: I'd rather be somewhere else with someone else doing something else. And that is, rattling around in people, looping around people's heads. But I do feel that Baba is leading us back more and more to the present. By focusing on Baba in the present, we are moving into that more the timeless present. Because you can't think of Baba in the future, and I guess you can think of Baba in the past, but he keeps you very much in the present. And I do feel like he's leading us back to that carefreeness. As we give up more and more worry, we kind of start to let go of the future, as we kind of feel more and more forgiven for the things that we've done in the past. In fact, some of the things we did in the past, some of the selfish and unkind things we've done in the past, actually gives us some empathy for people in the present. We can't be as critical. So anyway, I do feel Baba is bringing us more and more into the present, and I think everybody here is experiencing that. And one time I said to Merwan Jesawala, this is Erich's brother, I quoted Baba's line, "Live more in the present, which is ever beautiful and stretches away beyond the limits of the past and the future." And I said, this is in Mandalay Hall, and I said, "Merwan, what does that mean to you?" And he said, "You can only find Baba in the present. You won't find him in the past or the future." He said, people spend so much time thinking about the past and the future, and they let them slip away right in front of them. So the goal is not in the future. It's getting more and more into this moment. So in other words, it's enough just to be wholehearted about what's going on in the present. So anyway, that's a little bit of spiel to get things rolling, and feel free to share whatever you think. There are challenges, things that do pull you out of the out of the present, and that's part of it is what pulls you out and what keeps you in. So anyway, we'll go to
Hi, everyone, and Jay Bubba.
yeah.
So just before I this came on, I read this. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift of God, which is why we call it the present.
That Monty used to Baba's sister used to quote that.
Huh.
Yeah.
You should read it again,
Read it
right?
again. Yeah.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift of God, which is why we call it the present.
Yep. Beautiful. How do you guys do with the present moment?
We I think we strive to be in it. We get out of it every so often, but we try to help each other stay in the present. We work at it, but it's not easy. Like you start, sometimes you're missing what was and you're wondering what is. And, I think it's human nature in a lot of ways, but we try really hard to be here now.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm going to agree and not agree. As a couple, we do what Terry just said. Personally, me, I have a really hard time staying in the present. I can be listening here, and my brain will just go someplace else. And I will have listened to something or read something, but because I wasn't present in my brain, I cannot tell you what just went on. And I try and tell myself someplace, something in me heard it, something in me read it, so I will know it on some level. But it's very frustrating to go away and get distracted so much.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
being honest.
Baba said, it's interesting because Baba said, don't worry so much about being distracted. As soon as you know you're distracted, come back to the present. In other words, you can kind of, yeah, just kind of keep coming back, and we get pulled hither and thither.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
needed to hear that.
yeah.
It was a nice present.
Go ahead.
Jay Baba, everyone. Yeah, so I might take a few minutes,
Take
but
your time.
okay. So this takes me back to my childhood. When I was a very young child, I would often sit in my garden at home and be looking up at the sky and the stars and wonder how all this started. Where did it all begin? What was there before this? And I couldn't come up with anything. It was totally mysterious. It was very intriguing. And, we know that in our limited capacities, we cannot go further. And Baba so beautifully explains it in this discourse that he gave in Myrtle Beach back in 1958, where he says, God is beyond imagination. I will explain in a few words. God has no beginning. Can you imagine when God was not? Suppose your imagination takes you as far back as billions and trillions of years, and the answer is still God was. But what was before God? And again, the answer is God was. Therefore, can anybody imagine what was before God or how it all began? Even imagination cannot carry us to any idea of how God began, how everything began. To think of having no beginning cannot be imagined. So, and then he goes on to say further, to experience your real self is the goal. You are and you will ever be. There is no one else but you. Instantly, in a flash, you will know everything, including why you have no beginning and no end. But this knowing will have nothing whatsoever to do with mind or reason or logic. It is beyond mind. You know the answer to everything. You know that nothing has happened and nothing will ever happen. You then experience bliss. You become all powerful, all knowing. And then he ends with it's a longer discourse, but I'll just close with this. There is the eternal now, from the beginningless beginning to the endless end. There is one moment only, the eternal now. He who experiences the eternal now finds all doubts, worries, everything dissolved like mist and remains in eternal bliss. Now, this, of course, is in the infinite capacity, but on our conscious physical level, on this gross plane, we have a so-called past, present, and future. Because of our limited, we're bound by time. But we know our past was shaped by our own actions from previous lives. Therefore, to learn from our past experiences and mistakes is worthwhile. But to dwell in the past, I feel, is pointless and of no value. And our immediate future lives going forward depend upon our actions in the present now. Therefore, this present moment we are experiencing is of the greatest importance. And being aware of it allows us to consciously shape our destinies going forward. But all this is also in the play of illusion, and one must necessarily live, work, and play by its universal laws. So, in conclusion, I think if we can try to consciously live in the present moment, keeping Baba at the very forefront of all we think, say, and do, and surrendering all that comes our way to Him, we are living in the eternal now, which is the quickest and surest way to the goal, which is to realize our real self. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah. You're saying, like, in order to if you focus on Baba, you're focusing on the eternal now.
Now, exactly.
You're before we go on, I just realized that next Tuesday, the day after tomorrow, there's a guy, Nick Principe, who spent a lot of time with the Mandali, especially Baba's family in Pune, and he's got great stories to tell.
Wonderful.
And then next Sunday, I've asked Merwin Mehta, who grew up there in Ahmednagar, part of Erich's family, going way back, and he met Baba, and his family goes back to 1922, when a couple of his great uncles went out toward Mehrabad, and they for a kind of constitutional walk, and they came back and they said to the rest of the family, "We think we met Zoroaster down on the road." Can you imagine going down the road? They felt that they had met Zoroaster, and the whole family then came to Baba. But anyway, so Mayor Prasad.
Yes, Peter?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Prasad, and thank you, Goher, for sharing as well. Beautiful. Um, so, um, for me, like it's really hard to live in the present. I try more and more, but like sometimes I can. I would say, years ago I learned improv, and that skill really teaches you to live in the present. So like whenever I'm like improvising, like my mind automatically goes to the present because that's just making whatever up on the spot. Um, and then like when I play music or whatnot, I'm definitely living in the present. When I'm also like watching movies, really, especially really good movies or like TV, or even like sometimes sports events, I'll be in the present, caught up in the action of what's going on, or even like petting my dog Rumi or whatnot. I'll be also like in the present moment. But or even if there's a great book to read, I'll be in the present. So but I
What
definitely want
what
to try it
what
more and
takes you
more.
what takes you out of the present?
What takes me out of the present? Good question. Thinking about the future, I would say, like takes me out of the present, or like sometimes worrying about the future, like oh, what can happen or what will happen. I mean, I'm a perfectionist. I would say I'm pretty hard on myself sometimes, and or like sometimes worrying about the future and then thinking about the past. Well, this did happen. Will this happen? But I'll say that takes me out of the present.
Yeah.
But I would love to be in the present more, and maybe as I get older, I will.
Yeah. No, we're all go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Meher Darwala.
Jai Baba. I really, well, I'd like to say the truth that I have been feeling very upset. And then when I came into Baba's fold many years back, but suddenly I've been really liking this a lot because Baba is helping me and giving me a lot of the words people are saying and the things. So I have just now got a very this thing around experience because I started doing something and it's really helped me. Past is experience, presence is experiment, future is a experiential, and this thing is so used to experience in experiments to achieve your experience. I feel a lot of new things are coming up in the times now of Babas that we can learn a lot. I feel that. Jai Baba.
Yeah, thanks, Meher. Yeah. Hey, well, Bronny, where do you live?
I live in Adelaide, Australia. South,
Okay.
South Australia.
Okay. A lot of these people, some of these people are from India and all over the United States. Joshua Wolverton, he's from,
Hi, Josh. Yeah.
he's they're Brisbane. I mean,
Sydney.
Sydney. What am I saying?
I'm familiar with everybody's faces that I see because I've been watching you all in Effort and Grace.
Oh, good.
And it's really interesting because I feel such a closeness to some of you that I've never set eyes on you or spoken. So it's really lovely to be here today and finally actually be a part of a chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your last name Speedy?
Yes, and I'd really like to change it to Slowly because I've been forced to live slowly, but I'm by nature very speedy, so I can make it tricky for myself because I'll trip over myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like if you got a name like Charity, then you're kind of stuck being generous,
Yes, or Grace.
Or Grace. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
wonderful that you're showed up. These are, we're from all over. Yeah.
Yes, it's lovely. It's lovely to be part of the team.
Yeah.
Rosalie.
Jai Baba, what gets me to the present, I have a rather active mind, so I just have to Baba. Baba breaks me. The word Baba, Baba, Baba. And if I'm saying Baba real fast, like his nephews, Baba told the nephews to repeat his name, and they went, and they used to go Baba, 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 Baba. And Baba asked him, say, I want to hear you say it. And they go, Baba, Baba, Baba. He says, no, Baba, Baba. So when I remember, and I use it a lot lately because things are very sped up. And if I catch myself repeating it fast and I go like Baba, I said, no, Baba, 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 because he says it's the ultimate weapon. And it says only repetition of my name will suffice to free the whole world from its entanglements. I'm just worried about my entanglements. So, that should be pretty
Rosalie,
easy.
give that. This is a new quote of Bob's that has surfaced. Say that quote again. This is an amazing quote.
Only repetition of my name will suffice to free the whole world from its entanglements.
Yeah. So we could be a part of that.
I wanted to share this. Now this is Baba through Narina, but it's not in the blue bus period, but it's all about the present. God as truth exists and is present all the time. He is nearer to you than all other things. He is there right in your heart. Be no more attached to things of the past or of the future. Live in the eternal now, in complete detachment. This will be the end of the fleeting and the beginning of endlessness. Do not while away your time in the game of duality. You can then meet God in one moment. And that reminds me of Darwin. Darwin totally believed you could meet God in one moment. You don't think that it's going to be billions of life, whatever, 8,400,000. He used to think it was behind him. You know, he was, I would say, he was pretty ready to go. Anyway, I love that.
Yeah.
And I used to, just that one sentence, live in the eternal now in complete detachment. You know, it's like, it's powerful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mayor Prasad, can you call on yourself?
Yeah. I thought I'll share a couple of things. The first is that in my experience, I've noticed that the heart never lives in the past or future. It always lives in the present. Even when it's longing, that longing is still in the present. It enjoys that longing. So, but when it comes to the mind, that's when you get into the past or future. And,
Yeah.
and the second thing is, this happened about a year or a year and a half back. That I was thinking about why is it that on a Friday I feel all good about the upcoming weekend, but on Sunday night or Monday morning I have all this, grogginess or not really looking forward. One thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but for me it is true, is that somehow at the subconscious level, I know that whatever is going to come up from Monday to Friday is not something that is acceptable to me. That's why I'm kind of dreading that. Whatever feelings, whatever is brought up in me, I'm not living at the heart level. It's always at the mind level. So it's really not acceptable to me. But on Friday, I know that the upcoming 2 days, nothing is going to come up that will be unacceptable to me. So once I realized that, then, through the week, if I try to stay as much as possible at the heart level on whatever is going on through the week and offering it to Baba, giving it to Baba, it could be humiliations, it could be whatever is going on at work, that makes it that the difference between Friday and Monday slowly, gradually diminishes, reduces. That's what I've noticed. It hasn't disappeared for me yet, because there are still times during the week where I can't really, there are definitely parts of the during the week when I'm at work and I'm not fully at the heart level. So that difference hasn't disappeared, but I can certainly see the difference between Friday and Monday when I try to live at the heart level.
Beautiful. Excellent. And I got a one piece of advice for you. Just regard every day as Friday. No, I'm just joking. No, it's yeah. These are, but great. You're right. I mean, it's when the mind gets into the heart and starts messing around, then you're involved in time and space. That's if you can stay, like I say, in the heart, you can stay out of time and you can stay out of space. Meaning, I want to be over there, not here. That whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. When the mind is quiet and you're purely at the heart level.
Yeah. That's the best.
You cannot live in the past or future.
Yeah. That's when you know it's Friday.
Right. Josh.
Something that works for me, I think, is I love coming to this. I love coming to these and hearing different people's ideas. Whether it's Mayor Prasad's talk about the unconscious opening of the heart to things that you accept or don't accept, or even like your Bronnie talking about her name with like speediness and slowing down to connect to the present moment. Yeah, so like for me, it's hearing these people's ideas. So that's what I want to recommend. Keep them coming. All right, I want to keep on listening to these because they're really good.
Good, thanks. Beautiful.
Ronnie.
Thank you, Diana Terry, for your instructions. Thing that I find difficult with staying in the present is when I'm struggling with my chronic pain, and it awakens such aversion to the present moment. And I've got like a plethora of Baba quotes around suffering and how to work with it. And sorry, I'm a bit breathless and a bit shaky, so I'm having trouble getting my words.
Yeah, take your time. We got nothing to do here. We're just hanging out in outer space.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go slow, Ronnie.
Thank you. I thought I might read a quote from Baba and a quote from Mani, which I find really helpful when I'm pinned to my bed. I'm just facing the sensations in the body and the fear in the mind, and trying to stay in my heart. So this Baba quote goes, "Suffering is a true blessing of God's love and helps most to melt away the layers of separateness from Him." In a family letter, Mani goes on to say, "But separateness hates to melt away, and so it is that we cannot help wishing that the hand He lays on our head in blessing were less heavy. The pity is that we are not ready to receive or carry the weight of a blessing so great as His. And thus we cry out to Him to make the burden a little less, a little lighter. And the irony of it is that the load we feel we cannot bear is the weight of His hand that is trying to unload us of our burden of so many nothings. But although our weaknesses are great, His love is greater. Eventually, the fire of Baba's love will dissolve everything, including our difficulty in being happy and how and where He places us. For our doing that best helps Him to help us best. In explaining this glorious helplessness of the lover's surrender, in confining himself entirely to the Master's will, Baba once quoted Hafiz, "In loving my beloved, I have become like an ant under the foot of an elephant, safe and secure, but helpless to move." Jai Baba.
Yeah, would you mind reading that again? I mean, that's a very I can't remember reading that. That's from the family
No,
letter?
I think it was in one of the family letters.
Yeah. Read it
And
again, 'cause it's very
I'll read it
powerful.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just, shall I say why I'll read it again before I just say something about
Yeah.
my working with that?
Sure, however you want to.
Okay. So the quote that Baba initially said, and I think he may have said this in that, I've got it written in a book, so I'm not exactly sure which letter it was. I think it was in the family letter that was quoted, and then Mani went on. So Baba said, "Suffering is a true blessing of God's love and helps most to melt away the layers of separateness from Him." And in a family letter, Mani goes on to say, But separateness hates to melt away. And so it is that we cannot help wishing that the hand he lays on our head in blessing were less heavy. The pity is that we are not ready to receive or carry the weight of a blessing so great as his. And thus we cry out to him to make the burden a little less, a little lighter. And the irony of it is that the load we feel we cannot bear is the weight of hand that is trying to unload us of our burden of so many nothings. But although our weaknesses are great, his love is greater. Eventually, the fire of Baba's love will dissolve everything, including our difficulty in being happy how and where he places us. For our doing that best helps him to help us best. In explaining this glorious helplessness of the lover's surrender, in confining himself entirely to the master's will, Baba once quoted Hafiz, "In loving my beloved, I have become like an ant under the foot of an elephant, safe and secure, but helpless to move." Jai Baba.
Lovely.
And just for me, I can spend so much time fighting the heaviness, the weight of pressure that I feel in the body and in the mind. But if I remember to both take Baba's name, but sometimes I really need to work with the actual physicalness of it because I'm so enmeshed in it, so pinned by it. And I'm trying to adapt to say to Baba, "Thank you, Baba, for giving me what I need to come close to you." And I find if I say that and feel that in my heart, I start to be much more trusting of what's happening in my own body and mind. Like, I understand the mind, and I understand it's like a frightened child, and I understand that what's happening in the body is just so, what's the word, unacceptable to my mind. And yet I'm determined to work with accepting that, because it's Baba's hand. It's he's the elephant, and I'm that ant. And it's somehow I'm trying to become, to feel safe rather than unsafe, because it's a feeling of unsafe. So I love that quote, because I feel like it's like allowing that helplessness and surrendering and knowing that he's in charge. It's his hand. It's not I'm not doing something wrong. It's not my fault. It's all the stuff that can run in the mind, when you live with something that's ongoing. So yeah, that particular quote and trying to befriend the present, to his present, his present that he's presenting me with. So yeah, thank you.
Boy, very touching. Mani, there's something Mani used to quote. She would say, "I pray to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you."
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
Can you repeat that, Jeff?
I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you. Just imagine, someone that was next to Baba her whole life. But the weakness, the lack of strength would make her turn to Baba again and again. It's so beautiful. I just tell you, back in 1978, we'll go, I'll fit this and then we'll go to Marta. I was walking by, 1978, I was walking by the original kitchen, and I just happened to look in, and I saw the back of someone's head. And well, my mind said, that man is stopped. That man is not doing anything. He's not going anywhere. I mean, in an instant, I saw the back of someone's head. So I said, I wonder who that is. So I went, in through the original kitchen, came around the corner, and it was Adi Kairani. He was not going anywhere, even though we see him as going through time and he's going from here to there, but he was just stopped at the inner level, not going anywhere.
Martha?
Yes, I'd like to put a question out to the group. Can anyone explain more about the eternal now? What does the eternal now mean? Does anybody know?
We'll keep that on the table here, because that's a very good question, and because I don't know whether Rainey's going to address that or not. He isn't.
Oh, that was.
But when I was thinking of the now, I thought of past, present, future, now, time now. But then I was reading your questions that you sent in the email, and you said live in the eternal now. And I thought, well, what is it? What? I mean, it just sounds so vast and like, what? I can understand the concept eternal now, but I don't really understand it. But how do we live in the essence of something that has no beginning end except now? I don't quite get it.
Yeah, we'll address that after Rainey. We'll see.
That's fine, yeah.
So you guys be thinking,
Well, I don't know anything about the eternal now, but I was around a Mandali who focused his entire life. Can you hear me with this mic?
No.
A little bit louder.
Louder.
Is it better without the mic? No.
We don't have anything to compare it with yet.
That's with the mic.
Yeah.
Is that better with the mic?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's not like you're overwhelming us.
Is that better without the mic?
You're good right there. That's good.
Okay, without the mic. Yes, it's the other, the old computer, like the second-hand car for the wife thing, So having been with somebody who did very little except of thinking of things that were beyond duality, the word love, the now, and dozens of guzzles about time was, time is, time gone, time what the heck ever, constantly focusing on the now. Francis Brabazon. Hundreds of ideas about how to make it new, how to renew, how to stay in the now. But still, we're with the most ancient one, the most present one, the most future one, the most loving one, the most tender one, but how to make it new as he had expressed he wanted and stay in the now. And always interested me that was sort of who Francis was and what his goals were. And then he ended up at Mehrabad, and then Baba wanted lots of things made new. He wanted the talks made new. He wanted the English language ghazal, which was new. He wanted plays which were new. Everything was now. And we had lots of exercises in plays of how to get there, how to be more in the now. With absurd plays even, where nothing is said and you get nowhere and you end up in the now somehow. And definitely, the more you focus on it and the more you do it, which I don't now because he's not here, the now gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and duality matters less and less and less. The infinite enormousness of the now gets bigger. So, and then when you are in the now, you want to make everything new, everything fresh, everything experimental, everything, forget about the past, forget about any of that. Just keep doing what you think of as your expression of him, your work for him, your nothing for him, you're wholeheartedly sitting for him. Whatever you feel you do for him starts to be in that now, and that now becomes more and more enormous. And I found this funny little thing about now. Two men cross paths. First man, why don't you tell me something? Second man, what would you like me to tell you? First man, for God's sake, I want to know something. I must know something. My very being cries out to know something. Second man, well, if I knew what you wanted to know, perhaps I could help you. First man, perhaps you could help me. Perhaps you could help me if you know what I wanted to know, but I don't know what I want to know. If I knew, I wouldn't be asking you. Every morning now for over a year, we've passed each other and never spoken, and I can't stand it anymore. Oh God, someone, somewhere must know something. Second man, all these days we've been hurrying past each other. You because you wanted to receive something, and I because I wanted to give something, and we could not bear the burden of giving and receiving. When you act a little playlet like that, week after week, to put it on as part of a show, you end up somewhere with that simple nothingness in the now between giving and receiving. It takes you there. It seems senseless at the time, and why am I learning this ridiculous simple thing, you know? Or like the song Barbara's making it new for you. You have a whole day in front of you. Make it new, make it true. Don't bother about the past. It went because it could not last. It has no place in the new. And all of these abstract, small things that went on for 14 years of my life have me too focusing on where is it? What is it? And when do you get in there? Now, one thing I have found, you get in there when you start reading music. You get in there when you're really typing something and you think, oh my God, I was just doing that for an hour and a half. You're in there, you're in. Or you're studying or sorting songs. There's this eternal, enormous now that we've ridden ourselves of by a constant focus on the future and duality. And it's a massive subject. And I think it's a worthy subject in Baba. And we could have several nights on this, Jeff. I think you're onto something here, because in that beyond duality, beyond what was and what will be, is this enormous this enormous Baba, this enormous us one, us with him. It's enormous. And we all go in there every now and again. We know we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I believe that we spend time in that. We may not even be aware of it. But we get lost in that vastness and then come back to time. Let's see. Anyone going to tackle Marta's question? What is meant by, I often say there's the passing present and the timeless present, just to put those side by side. The timeless present is the same as the eternal now. But anybody want to venture?
Jeff, I have
Huh?
I have a message from Baba's discourses that should answer Martha's question, hopefully. When every moment is rich with eternal significance, there is neither the lingering clinging to the dead past, nor a longing expectation for the future, but an integral living in the eternal now.
Run it again.
When every moment is rich with eternal significance, there is neither the lingering clinging to the dead past nor a longing expectation for the future, but an integral living in the eternal now. So, my interpretation of that is if you're always living in the present, that is the eternal now.
Could you post a link to that in the chat or something?
What's that?
Yeah.
Could you post a link to that in the chat so that I can save
Yeah.
it somewhere? Thanks.
Yeah, it's in Infinity of the Truth Discourse. The
Jeff,
there's a place. My own experience that I've had is that your consciousness is normally seeing through the lens of the mind, which is past, present, and future. I mean, the mind sees things in terms of time. It's linear, as Dinku says. If you can move consciousness down to the realm of the heart without bringing the mind with it, you're in the present. If you can get out of the mind, you're really in a more of a place of timelessness, meaning the pure heart without any mind intruding. Then you're very much in the deeper present, you might say. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you go as deep into your heart as you can, go deep, 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 way beyond thought, you get into more of something that is so present that you're far away from the past and future. In other words, it's right on our premises.
Yes, John?
But it's actually, I mean, it's hard to separate feeling from thought. But if thought can be left upstairs and awareness can be brought down into the deeper heart, you start to move toward what Darwin calls the realm of the spirit, which is timeless and spaceless. But it's right within us. And I mean, of course, I think when we were little kids, we were romping around in that place, and the memories, some of our richest memories from your past. I mean, my own memories, my richest memories were when I was really in a timeless experience. You know, memories of being with the Mandali, memories of being in the tomb. They were kind of timeless moments. They stand out differently from regular memories. But I don't know if that touches on any of it. Marta?
Well, it was a good try, Jeff, but I'm afraid you pushed me deeper into the hole of confusion. But it was a good try. Thank you. I don't have any idea what you just said. I'm sorry. I know it was beautiful, but I don't know what you said. Maybe in a couple of years I might, get it, but that's okay. Now now Prakash said something in the chat and it has my curiosity.
Yeah.
Prakash, you said a state of positive forgetfulness. Was that addressing this question?
No, I'd say basically whenever we are not aware of ourselves, I mean, in the sense we have no thoughts of our own, I mean, focusing on myself, my, me and mine, then, I mean, the thoughts, they always come. I mean, it's something you cannot stop because the impressions are there, like Baba says. So, like somebody said, the best way is to just remember him because he is in the eternal now all the time. He is timeless. Yes. So, and Baba somewhere says about positive forgetfulness. When people are not attached to the material surroundings. They develop a sort of detachment which helps them produce things. Particularly, he refers to artists and these people who paint and write poetry and everything. And they are so detached from the surroundings that they are in, and which is a state of positive forgetfulness apparently, and that leads you to do things that that are very fulfilling and help. I mean, sort of they go to the state of heart, like Jeff was saying. To me, thoughts are really the ones that create the real time. I mean, the past and future. I mean, I think about the past, and that when things go wrong, I tend to worry. Of course, I can fix it in the present, but again, that depends as to what I can do. And the future is always there, and then the fear of future lets me to, develop expectations, and again, the same worry tags along to make me, not be in the present. To me, being in the present is a state of thoughtlessness, but that's almost impossible. So a better way is just to remember him, because he is timeless, and we imbibe his consciousness in that process. Because I remember this quote where it says, "You become what you think. You become something like, you become what you eat, and what you become what you think." So as long as our mind and heart are focused on him, we are inviting that infinite consciousness, which is timeless. So, I mean, it's not that there is, have any answer to the questions that we all have, but that's one way to be in the present, to think of him constantly. And I do remember this particular quote, which Jeff often has somebody read, I think Robin in Effort and Grace. Do all for me. It's continuous action, thinking about him all the time. Pick a spoon, it's him who's picking. Have a bath, and he's having a bath. Once you're in that state, then I guess things become definitely easy, and I think we can say that we are living in the present, because we are living with the master who is timeless. And but I think I found out over the time, it's not that I've been doing for a long time, but I do it in short spurts of time in the morning and afternoon. I do remember that, oh, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And that seems to sort of, at least I think, will help you get into that timeless present, so to speak. Jai Baba.
Yeah, beautifully said. I mean, I think what he said, that's the very best is, Baba is timeless, as Prakash is saying. So focusing on him, you are imbibing some of that that eternal now. That's that's a beautiful way of expressing it.
We have Chand has his hand up.
Yeah.
Jai Meher Baba. The question posed by Mr. Martha Flores is eternal law that has been explained in the Middle Wage in 1958 by Baba himself. That was in, you can find that quote in Lord Meher online revised edition 2017 4383. Meher Prasad, you can just take down the number, the page number 4383, where Baba said, what happened yesterday is nothing. What will happen tomorrow? Nothing. Everything happens now. This experience of everything happening at this every moment is dhyan, knowledge, wisdom. It has nothing to do with the mind or reason. One who had this experience of eternal knowledge, dhyan, is wise mind says. It has yesterday that Baba was here And Baba gave us a discourse and well listened, and the children had a party. And mind also says, tomorrow we will have a performance. But one rare being knows that there is nothing such thing as yesterday or tomorrow. There is the eternal now. From the beginningless to the beginning to the endless end, there is one moment, only eternal now. He who experiences the eternal love finds all doubts, worries, everything dissolve like mist and remains in his eternal bliss. And Baba said also about explaining the foreknowledge, the difference between foreknowledge of the individuals and the perfect masters, that you can refer to page 4383. But one thing, my experience with the living in present is also sometimes I feel difficult because the present pandemic situation has brought so much thinking. Is I always say thanks to Baba. I always say thanks to Baba because sometimes I just recapitulate my past also. Baba, you made me to happy today because you made me in a situation far better than many others. You are giving me, in spite of the economical situation and the pandemic situation in the economical situation and also financial position. Right now we are facing in this pandemic. I always say thanks to Baba. You have kept me in a better than many others. You are giving 2 times food to my this thing and making happy, keeping me happier than many others. But for you, I have not stayed even in the present. And I always feel that the future is always a vacuum. What happens, we don't know. Things will happen as per his will. The things destined to happen, they are going to happen. So I never think about the future. Living in the present is only by only with the accomplishment of our goals, living in the present now also only by his grace. That is my interpretation of. That is my interpretation.
Yeah.
Jai Meher Baba.
Thank you, Mayor Chand. Yeah. Ooh.
Ronnie?
I was, because I haven't been able to do so much over these last many years, the word being has become really very meaningful for me. And I feel that I've had this little project of going through, as I come across wherever Barbara has spoken about being, I've written them down as little quotes. And for me, to be able to unravel into being and then offer my being to Baba. And there's something about being in connection with the eternal now. If I'm just being, then I'm there with I'm in the moment. I'm in now, in the eternal now. I think that's the way I see it. But there's a quote here that Baba from Discourses 7th edition, page 119, where Baba says, "It is not right to deprive the present of all importance by subordinating it to an end in the future. For this means the imaginary accumulation of all importance in the imagined future, rather than the perception and realization of the true importance of everything that exists in the eternal now. There cannot be an ebb and flow in eternity, no meaningless intervals between intermittent harvests, but a fullness of being that cannot suffer impoverishment for a single instant. When life seems to be idle or empty, it is not due to any curtailment of the infinity of the truth, but to one's own lack of capacity to enter into it, into its full possession." Back in 2008, when Baba finally drew me into his love orbit. At that time, I'd been with another teacher who would often talk about going into being. And for me, at that point, I just could not access that place. I had too much pain and too much going on. I'd already had some exposure to Baba, and I had a box of his books and photos. And for some reason, I felt drawn to go to that box. No, actually, I think I thought of Baba, Meher Baba. And there's a bit of a complicated history in my coming to Baba, and there were seeds planted maybe 40 years ago. But anyway, that's why I had this box of stuff. Anyway, I remember feeling this dilemma of no longer being able to go into being. And I thought of Baba, Meher Baba, and I suddenly was aware of being, my being. And I had a particular photo of Baba. It's his passport photo. And that came into my mind. And then that same instance, again, there was this being, like this access to being. And then I went to the box and I pulled out Alan Cohen's book, Mastery of Consciousness. And I turned it to the page where Adi Senior is saying that that after Baba drops the body, he's still present for 100 to 200 years. And I suddenly finally was unveiled to the fact that Baba is present as my very being. And so then that was my beginning of being with Baba. But the word being, I just feel is such a key for me anyway, to living in that eternal now. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, very often doing kind of pulls us into time, and being. I mean, if doing comes from being, we still stay in the now, but then there's the other kind of doing, which is 9 to 5, and we're kind of ground up in time. And then we're thinking about Friday or Monday,
Marian?
Oh yeah, we got.
Yeah, Marian has.
Hi, thank you. I just want to share some personal experiences as I am, of course, resonating with everything people are reading. And so I know that every day I get into the past and the future in this limited, space. So I'm learned to use some of my thinking, like what's the truth of the matter here, as I tend to be more emotional. And I've learned that Baba, the avatar, comes with the triad nature of knowledge, power, bliss. And in the psychological realm, which Baba said is also spiritual, that when as a little child, I had some kind of trauma and had to rely on creating a defense, I draw on my spirit of knowledge, power, bliss, and I turn it into a distortion of reason, will, and emotion. So I have those three defenses in me. So it's helped me to notice how my defenses work as a human being, because that's a gateway for me to open to the unitive state, is by now unwinding those that made me safe as a little child on the human level. And I have all three, reason, will, and emotion, as defenses. My dominant one is emotion. I also have the other one. So I need to balance more with thinking. And the more I can think through things, not intellectualizing, but thinking clearly, then I notice there's a balance of the two sides of the coin where I'm not so much on one side and rely on my defense. And they dissolve then. And that's my gateway to being in the now. And and the joy. So I'm not talking about the now that is eternal knowledge, power, bliss, because that is a shift into that. This is where I am more conscious, kind of working the system, noticing, observing, and I have a motto. The first step of transformation of any of these, any kind of defenses I have to where I feel threatened, is to first report in, notice, observe. So I need to report it into somebody. So it's Baba. And of course I go along with talking to Baba, saying Baba's name, but I also report into Baba. And I know so that I can keep observing and noticing and not try to be different. And then there'll be a shift into a more expanded state. So those are by degrees. So I don't call it, that's not eternal bliss. Eternal bliss is where there's no creation. There's no creation where there's eternal knowledge, power, bliss. There's no creation. But this is, I'm still in creation, maybe an expanded state. But so I do have to, for me, I've had to learn to think, not intellectualize, but think, to balance that emotion side. And that's when I can be more present. So I just want to end with that, because for me, being as present as I can be throughout the day, whether it's putting my face into all the beautiful plants I have in my home and saying, I love you and I appreciate the oxygen you give me. And I think gratitude that is a normal, natural state of being is very important. I can't try to be grateful, but when it arises naturally, I feel that state of grace, then I'm in that then. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you all for hearing.
Beautiful. And it gives you a taste of the timeless. Yeah.
Rainy?
Time for one of the time poems. Jeff.
Is this Francis?
Yeah. Is it time for one of the time poems?
Sure.
This one is from The Beloved is All in All, which, unlike Dust I Sing, which is the seeker and the challenge and duality and everything, I feel a lot in The Beloved is All in All, there's some conclusions. And several of them are about time. The world is being run on time, by time, for time, and at no time are we free. At no time are we free just to sit and enjoy even the outward forms of the beloved's beauty. Each drop bubble in time is a sphere bounded but infinite. There you go, Marta. It's that simple. Each drop bubble in time is a sphere bounded but infinite. So fragile, yet the whole of creation is held in it. It's a mirror reflecting never truth, but the drop soul's desires. And no matter how deep one dives in the truth quest, or how high one aspires, good man, bad man, economy tailored or king-sized, each gazes in his bubble mirror self-hypnotized. Since the blows of my will are too feeble to break my own looking glass, at least, beloved, let it reflect only your all-loving face. Then, though still in time, I will no longer be a fool under time's tyranny, but under your benign rule. The amazing universe and this beautiful earth will vanish, leaving not a trace behind, when his glance shatters this so unbreakable mirror of my mind.
Beautiful, Rainey. Wow. You know, just one of the things that I kind of gathered from Erich in my own experience. For a long time, my early years with Bob, I was kind of got not realizing I was kind of into self-improvement. And self-improvement is always kind of future-oriented. And eventually I stumbled upon self-acceptance, to accept, and be content with what is and what I am. And so that and then over the years I built up a great tolerance for pain and suffering, because if I can tolerate pain and be in the present with it, then I'm not going to the past or the future when I wasn't in pain. I always want, I'd rather be in pain and in the present than up in the penthouse having a good time, but incomplete. So I've always felt, try to stay in the present and accept it as it is, even if it's uncomfortable, rather than dreaming my way into some future place, or longingly think back in another place, or grabbing a bottle off of the shelf and getting intoxicated, but to stay with that. And I'll tell you, just I don't know if this is, well, I would say it's not exactly for public consumption, but all you people. But I was once working with Bal Kalchuri in one of the back rooms at the Trust, massaging him. He used to like massage. And so he was on the cot face down. And so I had him basically in my clutches. And I said, Bao, I'm going to quote to you a famous Sufi line, and tell me if it was true for you and the Mandali. And this is the quote. It was actually by Mansour Halaj, a perfect master. But so I said, this is the quote, Bao: suffering is he, happiness is from him. Suffering is he, happiness is from him. Would you say that was true for you and the Mandali? And Bao was kind of face down on the bed, and he kind of poignantly said, we were only aware of his suffering. Year in and year out, week in and week out, day in and day out, we were only aware of his suffering. But if someone came to Mirzad, they got the happiness from him. But our lot was to feel what he was feeling. I mean, they couldn't be like, Baba's in infinite suffering right there, and they couldn't just sit there and be in bliss. They were how he was. They became like him. So suffering is he, happiness is from him. And they all, I remember one time back in the 70s, Erich was in Mandalay Hall, and he was talking, and at one point it kind of came to a pause, and I was looking at him, and I said to Erich, I have a feeling that if I were to inhabit your body for a half hour, all I'd want to do is go unconscious and asleep. And Erich shot me a flash of acknowledgement. And, I felt if I were to inhabit his body, I would be crushed. The amount of suffering that he was able to bear, and still be just very casual, interacting with us and everything. But I looked through a window and I saw what incredible suffering he was bearing. And he was able to stay in the present, and not go anywhere. And Adi was the same. I sensed the same thing in him, and all of the Mandali. But anyway, but to be able to bear the suffering in the present, then you don't really want to go anywhere in the future or the past. Anyway.
We have two hands up. Janet,
Yeah.
Jacobs.
Yes. So some of the things I've noticed is that well, I mean, I feel like when I'm in the present moment, it's Baba's grace. And truthfully, saying his name is something I try to do a lot, but that doesn't necessarily put me in the present moment. it all sometimes it's like helping me avoid the present moment, to be honest with you. I mean, I noticed that things like just now when you were speaking, Jeff, I could feel in the present moment with what you were saying. I could sense that what I don't know, I'm projecting here, but I felt like you sensed their suffering and I was sensing you sensing it, if that makes sense. And that it felt very present. And like the other day I was on my back porch just reading and my back deck, and it's not a big deck, it's small, but I have a plant there, and the hummingbird came and was just humming about 3 feet from my nose for quite some time. And I woke up after, I mean, I wasn't asleep, but that drew me into the present moment, that hummingbird, without thinking, and so sometimes music will do it. Sometimes I had my daughter was with me today, and we had a lovely time and a lovely conversation. And when I'm involved in someone else's experience, I mean, I was thinking about her, not about me. And that, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding what present moment is, but it felt like I could, I mean, like Baba was, I mean, I wasn't asking Baba. I wasn't saying, Baba, direct my words or anything like that. I did that this morning several different times. And then it seemed like, I mean, there was one point at which I said something and I'm like, oh yeah, Baba directed me to do that right now. I it seemed like it because it was a good thing. It was what was needed. And so things like that, and I don't know if that's the eternal present moment or just the present moment, but it has a feeling of being orchestrated by the beloved on some level. And all those things that you have spoken about before, Jeff, that are in the deeper heart, and like Marion was talking about, gratitude and humor, jokes will put me in the present moment. I mean, where all else, to me, what that is just that everything else fades away. And it isn't like fading away for any prolonged period of time, but it just sort of comes. And that's why I said it feels like grace. Like Baba's grace is it more than something that I can create happening. It feels like he gives.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, kind of going back to what Prakash said, when you kind of forget yourself in something, you kind of move into that timeless realm to a certain extent, which is kind of beautiful. You got into your daughter's life and you're kind of out of time in your own self. And even if you're into your daughter's time, you're temporarily stepping out of that self-reference, and you kind of disappear a little bit. I don't know if that.
Yes, that's exactly what it was, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like then all of a sudden things, after quite a long period of time, then it's like, oh, okay, I've got to do the dishes now. back to my reality here.
Yeah. No, Eric was very, very stressed forgetting yourself in what you do, being wholehearted and forgetting yourself in what you do, and you get kind of out of time in the kind of rigid sense. You're kind of, it's very spacious and there's joy and an expansiveness. Yeah.
And so is that the eternal now, or is that, am I in a something, maybe it's not. I mean,
that's knocking on the door. That's getting close, I would say.
Okay, that's great. That's fine with me.
The eternal now, you're like I saw with Adi, you're stopped.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though you're doing something, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything.
Right.
There's just somehow, you're like treading water, you're not going anywhere, and you're perfectly happy about not going anywhere. Anyway.
Thank you.
Michael Childs.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, but we don't see you.
Well, my computer's not working and we just had a shutdown, power outage. So I'm mainly listening and I can see you guys, but you can't see me, but you know what I look like. So about this timelessness, I take it for granted. I find myself drifting in and out of normal consciousness and just being, well, see, I can't even describe it. I just went into it then. So I don't know what to say. I don't have a method for it, but I believe that it has to do with disappearing. And I believe that we all have to develop that ability and that willingness in order to hear and listen to other people. I keep on thinking about the new humanity and the 2.5 billion people who are part of that, of all different languages and creeds and opinions, and they all mean well. They want to do well and treat each other well, but we have all these barriers and considerations, and what we need to do is listen to them. And the only way you can really do that is to disappear, to be with them. And that if you love someone, you have to be with them and listen and watch them if you can. Anyway, I have a poem I want to contribute. Seems to be right on topic. Guzzle you.
Will it take any time to read it? No.
Oh,
Just
it's only
joking.
200 lines. Okay. My clock has numbers and no hands. No longer is it about 10 o'clock. It is exactly 10:10. Does this really matter? At this very moment, time is slow. In 1/2 hour, there will be a split-second race to be on time to something soon forgotten. Lord, when I contemplate your you-ness, how else can I describe the indescribable? Time is non-existent. It is a leisurely evening spent absorbing the smells of trees and grass and flowers, awestruck by the sunset, laughing at children playing, lost in conversations that lovers have who never seem to say enough to satisfy each other. The picture fades and crumbles. Hurry, Michael, you'll be late, and swept up by time's torrent, disappears in guilt for wasting precious seconds that could have been more useful. Lord, is it time to leave, or is it time to stay? Someday, when it pleases you, may I stay forever?
Beautiful, Michael. Well, lovely, lovely. You know, I'll give you kind of a something that Baba kind of brought home to me about time. It's a simple thing. I think if there's two futures and there are two pasts. Like suppose I have a root canal that's going to happen on Wednesday. Now I can stay in the present knowing that, you know, I got this root canal coming up. But if I'm worried about the root canal, then I'm energetically in the future. And I'm less here in this moment. And the same way, if I'm thinking, you know, something that I did in the past, I wish I hadn't done it and everything. I mean, I can talk about the past if I could stay in the present, the past coming to me in the present. But if I go into the past and I dwell on it, you know, then I'm energetically, I've left being fully present to this moment. You know, I mean, so, and so, I mean, I mentioned that experience with Adi seeing the back of his head. I didn't go back there, you know, I was able to stay in the present moment with that. So that's one way I can, Baba kind of gave me to be able to stay in the present and still be open to the future and what might happen or the past if it, if I can stay in the present with it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but so, wow. Um, we'll, oh, somebody raised their hand.
May I go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to mention, it seems to me that before the pandemic, I really was in the past and future a lot. And I was really, it seemed like I worried. At the time, it didn't seem like worry, but now I see that it was worrying because now through all of the Zooming with everyone and everything that Bob is teaching me, it seems like he's helping me to not worry and have faith and trust in him. And it seems for me to stay in the present moment, it has something to do with faith and trust in Baba. Because now I'm really not pulled to the past or future and worrying. And I just know that he's taking care of it. So then I just remember him. And that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the pandemic, you might be even more inclined to worry, but you're actually worrying less than when things were much safer, so to speak. But really,
yeah, because of all of this, of learning from everyone and hearing stories and you coming and everybody coming, and just like somebody was saying tonight, I don't know if it was Go Here, but how Baba's teaching me anyway, probably everyone so much. It seems during this pandemic period on Zoom.
Yeah, I think we're spending much more time with Baba, consciously thinking of him than previously. Wow.
I just wanted to say to Marta, I too have realized that it's just too big. So I just had to give it up. It's so enormous. A worldwide pandemic, we're in the non-smoking section of the plane, but we're going to get all the smoke anyway. So we might as well just give up, and it's just too big to worry about or even be concerned about. You've got to do self-protective things, but that's all we can do. And so we're in our own now bubble doing it. It's a great, thank you for bringing that up. I realize I too had to just give up, give in, Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Baba really made the most of this time for us with all these Zoom sessions. Yeah.
Michael?
I was thinking about something earlier, and there were some studies. I've been thinking about how the mind works.
Michael, can you go a little closer to the mic?
How is that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
All right. There are three things that the mind does that are crucial, basic, and it's something worth observing and understanding. First, it makes assumptions in most circumstances. Then it comes to a conclusion based upon that assumption, or those assumptions, and then it makes decisions. And of course, that leads to actions. I'm going way back to the very beginning of life, when we were either prey or we were predators. And of course, we've been both. Throughout the insect, animal kingdom, even as plants, we did this. If we saw, say, some grass moving, we'd notice it, and we would make an assumption that it was either prey or we were going to be eaten by something. And we'd make these assumptions, and then we'd plan what we were going to do. So all this time, we're no longer in the present. We are in the future based upon assumptions. And we have to be really careful about what we assume, since what we're we're going into a whole new phase, a whole new paradigm, where what was once the enemy are now our friends. And people who are friends, or if they're the 75% and they want to do you in because you know about love, then we can expect a whole bunch of flack and chafe, and I think even martyrdom about it. It's good to know, to be wary of the assumptions that we make, that they're really based upon something that's tangible, rather than silly assumptions, cultural assumptions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are layers upon layers, but we're going to get through it, and we're going to get to the present. And let's see.
By the way, in that respect, there's one story
Yeah.
related to Elizabeth Patterson that she told that I want to tell. I was her go-to guy for furniture back in the 70s. And she asked me to come to the storage place where she had stored a lot of furniture that she had collected, that she had gotten from her father. She wanted me to check out a desk. Well, I said there was nothing wrong with it. It was doing fine. And then she noticed an open window that overlooked, it was under a carport and overlooked a convertible that Baba had driven. But the window was slightly open, 2 inches. And she went over there slowly, because she didn't move quickly. And she was all bent over from the accident from a 52. And she reaches up very painfully to me and pushes the window down. And then she looks at me and says, and meanwhile, I'm wondering, why didn't she ask me to do this? I'd be glad to. And we're about 10 feet apart, and she looks at me really intently and says, never trust anybody. And I said, what? She's been with Baba 40 years, total trust. And she tells me not to trust anybody, and yet the truth is I made a whole bunch of assumptions about people that I shouldn't have, and trusted people I shouldn't have. It was very good advice, but I couldn't believe the intensity and how she meant it, and how she had looked into the future and seen in that timeless moment of shutting the window what I had to watch out for. Anyway, another thought.
Okay, yeah.
Dinku.
We got one last thing, and then maybe we'll have, and take your time too, but we'll have a moment of silence. Yeah.
Dinku.
Yeah, Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba, Dinku.
I've just, to me, since this pandemic has started, I felt like time has just stopped still in a way, because before you know it, the year is over. Before you know it, there's been hardly any social interaction or anything. And I've been living, when I reflect on this, I feel that I've just been living in the now, in the moment. And it seems like an eternal now. I don't know if I'm expressing myself properly, but time has stood still, and yet it has moved very fast.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of the experience, is that everything seems stopped, but then a month has gone by. How did that happen?
Exactly.
They're very subtle sort of aspects, but it's hard we don't have the English language that captures some of these subtle phenomena,
Yeah,
But
and
yeah.
to me that seems like an eternal now. It's just, in the moment, and yet not of the moment.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and the so Mayor Prasad, you know where you got that quote in the infinity of the truth? There are like 3 paragraphs there. Why don't you choose one of those, and then we'll have a read it, and then we'll have a few moments of silence. And but again, I'll tell you that on Tuesday, Nick Principe is going to share these stories with the Mandalay, and he's got some very good jokes. I'm asking him to tell one of them. But he was around Bob's brother Joel, so I'm sure he knows a lot of the jokes that were told to Bob as well. But he's got other stories. And then, like I say, next Sunday is Merwin Mehta, who a wonderful person, very, very mature and very unassuming, but a beautiful person.
Which quote did you mean, Jeff? You meant the
Infinity of the Truth, and it's the illusion that most aspirants found most difficult to shake. But I think the second paragraph, I think Brani read some of it from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read the first one. Life is not meant to be rich in spiritual significance at some distant date, but it can be so at every moment if the mind is disburdened of illusions. Only through a clear and tranquil mind is the true nature of spiritual infinity grasped, not as something that is yet to be, but that already has been, is, and ever will be eternal self-fulfillment.
Jai Baba. Thank you, everybody. And that's really, everybody did beautifully in filling out what it means to live in the present. You know, I mean, and
Really good topic, Jeff. Thank you.
yeah. If anybody has any topics to suggest, don't hesitate, because you know, I'm trolling for for things that what I like, not so much the intellectual things, but the things that actually have to do with our experience, our day-to-day life with Baba, and the challenges, the breakthroughs, what helps. God, I thought of
one topic I would love to have is humiliation. I have a big fear of humiliation, and that is really the biggest cause behind Friday and Monday, because I'm very afraid of being humiliated in public. So if we can get some.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the major fears of everybody. I mean, stage fright is the #1 thing in this country. 90% of people are stage fright. And why is stage fright? Because if you really screw up, you get humiliated, you know. I thought that guy could think, and he's like a blithering idiot up there, on the stage. You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
but it's funny. I'll just say this, but Adi a number of times said this Adi Kairani, if he hadn't gotten into Baba, he would have been a great saint with a large following. But instead, I've had to suffer frustration, exhaustion, and humiliation every day of my life with Baba. So he gave up that, that sublime state to be with Baba right down here on the street level, and all the ups and downs, the bumps in the road, and humiliation. And that's what Eric's recently I read where he just said, life with Baba was just humiliation. God, I mean, I know that he had a little humiliation, but he just saying that it was it. So
I think he also meant, I
What?
think he also meant ego effacement. I think another way of trying to put that, right?
Yeah, another term
Adi was
for it.
big on that. I mean, ego effacement.
Yeah. So that's a great topic. So that won't be next Sunday, but it'll be the following Tuesday. I think it's a great one. I mean, it's one of the. I mean, it's the hardest thing. Yeah. I mean, just the suspecting that this is a situation where I could really get humiliated,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I want to go over there, And the thing too is that we are not perfect, so we are going to do things that are below our standards, That's another thing. We can't even trust ourselves to always behave properly.
Yeah, and saying wrong things that will be proven publicly wrong, saying things that will be proven publicly wrong in front of, 100 people.
Yeah, in front of the world on video, and then it's YouTube forevermore. Tell me about it. No wonder I shake when I open my mouth on camera.
Yeah.
We have a famous phrase in the Wine Shop Singers, which I adopted for the Love Street Singers, and at a certain point it's better to be heard and not seen, which reverses the proverb,
Yeah. No, it's yeah. Some people have kind of worked their way through that, and they don't mind being humiliated, but they kind of work their way through some of that. But that's one of the major things. I mean, what I feel is that like it's very hard to get down to the core emotion that feeds these thoughts and complexes, the mental aspect of it. Very hard to get down, and Baba has to I think, kind of keep humiliating you until you get down to the fear that's at the bottom of this, terror of being humiliated. But it's very hard to get down to the core fear and give that to Baba. But once it's given to Baba, then you're free. But how many humiliations do you got to go through to get to that? Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good night.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you. Much love, all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Jai Baba, thank you, Jai.
Avtar Meher Baba
Baba
ki jai.
Baba ki jai.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jai.
Thank you,
Avtar
Meher.
Meher Baba ki
Oh, yeah.
jai.
And we end with Nasreen.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Okay. I'm ready to go.
All right. Stay safe, everybody.
Jai Baba, everyone.